Here we go.
Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You're amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Friday, and this is video 3 of 3. So if you haven't seen 2 videos from me today, you've missed possibly them all. What have you been doing? Hopefully it's something good. Anyway, I'm doing this video purely because a lot of people have spoken to me who have been following the Slater case, and they're like, you keep talking about certain things, but you seem to be suppressing information. You seem to be suppressing certain stories, and they're talking about this boat, the Maruba boat. Now, is it 1111 True Crime? Now, what I will say is I'm not 100% familiar with 1111 True Crime. I can't watch everybody. Sadly, I don't have the time to do so. But I did check out a video that someone sent me the link to, and this was 1111 True Crime talking about the Maruba boat and the fact that there was a picture that appeared to be Jay Slater. And look, what I will say is there was no point in that video that the lady behind that channel said, "This is Jay Slater, I think this is what happened." It was complete speculation, like what we do. I would imagine that speculation potentially came from someone else sending her that picture with the thoughts or feelings that this was potentially Jay. But again, what we saw in this picture is the obligatory potato cam. Potato cam strikes again. And what I'm going to say to people is, look, whenever you have a situation where there is video footage or there is a photograph, phones, literally the phone, 99% of people who are around these sort of situations, like the Jay Slater case, for instance, most of them people will have a phone that can take 4K video, that can take a pretty high resolution photograph. So if you're sent pictures, if you're sent anything that looks like it's been taken by a potato, then the chances are you have to question it. You have to question it. And that's why, with respect of the Maruba boat situation, what I'll say is, look, I've got a lot of extensive information on the Maruba boat. I've been liaising with people who had tracked that boat, who know where it went, when it turned off its transponder for tracking, when it changed its flags over. It apparently runs different flags, which is not uncommon. When these boats, these yachts and things go from place to place, they do tend to change their flags. So that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. And what I will say is, look, and I can't tell you 100% how I know this, but look, with respect of boats and with respect of utilizing boats for the purpose of drug trafficking, they don't necessarily need to use a boat that has a transponder, that is trackable, that Joe Public can go onto the site that tracks these vessels and track it, that they can tell you where it went, where it didn't go, where it stopped, where it turned its transponder off. They don't need to do that. Absolutely don't need to do it. Now, with respect of Jay Slater and trying to tie him into the Maruba boat, it would be unfair for me to turn around and say there is absolutely no way whatsoever that this vessel had nothing to do with Jay Slater at all. Because, again, I cannot say that. But what I can say is I personally don't think it did. I don't think that there was a point where Jay Slater was taken off of Tenerife Island by boat or anything like that. I don't think, and again, this is just my opinion. This is my opinion. It is just my opinion. And my opinion could change should there be sufficient evidence to suggest that. Now, we did hear stories of the boat situation. We heard them being exacerbated by the likes of Mark Williams Thomas. And I feel that what has happened in this situation, and why I feel that certain people should be held accountable, is the fact that the likes of Mark Williams Thomas, has come forward, and he has indeed said things that have led people to believe that this is what happened in the Jay Slater case. And you have to then question what his motivation was behind it. Was it that someone had given him a story? Was it that someone had given him a story? And was that story set up for a reason? Because I'm still of a mindset in this that when this case sort of exploded and starts gaining traction and gaining people seeing it and being interested in it and paying for it, you then have to consider whether people then go down the route of making up stories to make the situation drag out for longer, ergo producing more money. You know, the Jay Slater case became a money spinner. It did become a money spinner. You know, we are still able to talk about Jay Slater, and a byproduct of that is that we get paid for doing so. It's just the way it is. And I'm going to do a video over the weekend exactly on that point. But for now, with respect of the Maruba boat, why I haven't touched it, why I haven't spoken about it, is because personally, I just don't feel that there is enough evidence that is out there that's credible that would suggest that Jay had anything to do with that vessel, other than someone who potentially mentioned the fact that Jay could have been transferred to a boat, transferred to another island even, but that person has walked away. Now, I feel that this person has walked away for one of two reasons, and that is that they were duped by people who were potentially around this for the aforementioned reason that was somebody making money? Was somebody aware that by these stories being pushed out, it would gain more traction, more awareness, and therefore more money? And he was duped by that, and perhaps he is embarrassed by it. And to be fair, he should be embarrassed by it. To be their boots on the ground and to say the things that he did, and then to walk away from it and leave everybody like myself, for instance, or Wax to take the flak for it, when it wasn't even us who had pushed out that rumor initially. We're just the ones who reacted to it being said, but we weren't the ones who started it. It was indeed Mark Williams Thomas that had turned around and said that after having conversations with people on the island, there was a potential connection to the criminal underworld, and that led on to the stories of the beach and the boat. And lo and behold, we now have this Maruba vessel that people are hell bent on trying to connect Jay Slater to. And I'm not saying that it's nothing to do with it. I'm just saying that there is no credible evidence out there to suggest that it had anything to do with the Jay Slater situation. I find it very hard to believe that a boat that was fitted with a transponder, that it was being clear to a point where it was going. I know it turned its transponder off, or it seemed to go dark, if you like, for a period of time, but that's no different than, say, in the Idaho 4 case. So Brian Koberger, they believe he turned his phone off. Subsequently, we've heard other stuff that it simply wasn't transmitting. And that could have been for any numerous reasons, and one of them is that it turned their phone off. But it's very similar to a vessel that has a transponder of some description on it. If somebody goes missing, something happens to someone, and it just so happens to be around the time that this transponder gets switched off, yes, it looks dodgy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they had anything to do with the Jay Slater situation. And we would need a lot more evidence before we concluded that it did indeed have something to do with it. Now, again, I have said this multiple times, we are waiting for information to come back, reference the other body that was found around the Moroccan waters. And look, maybe that will come to fruition at some point and shed some more light on it. But why I haven't spoken about it, in answer to your question, the few people that have reached out, is that I just don't, at this stage, see any credibility in it. I don't see any credibility in it. I do have thoughts and feelings as time has progressed as to what genuinely is the most likely scenario with the Jay Slater case, and I've concluded this off the back end of listening to the likes of Rocky and Bullwinkle, looking at how they're interacting with people, looking at what kind of people they seem to be, factoring in that they had previously been caught for trafficking and the like. And to me, this seems there is a potential here that what happened is that Jay Slater ended up dead because of the neglect and non-care of the people that he went to Tenerife with. And potentially, in terms of the likes of Ayub Kasim, for instance, I just think, again, there was potentially an arrogance to it. And maybe Jay asked for a lift and he told him to fuck off. He couldn't be bothered to take him for a lift. Fuck off. If you want to get back, walk. Like, did Jay have any money on him? We don't know if he had any money on him. Ayub Kasim says that he offered Jay a charger, but his phone was dead, apparently. And I have to look at both sides of the coin. I can't just, to be right, to be proper, to turn around and say 100% Jay Slater's death was 100% the result of direct nefarious activity. When, again, currently, and this could change, but at this stage, the biggest red flags are where people are seemingly trying to cover their ass. But that could be, again, a byproduct of people knowing that they could have changed things. They could have done things differently and it would have worked out differently. But I am going to keep going because there are still things that could potentially lead in another direction. I haven't given up. I haven't settled on 100% this is what happened. And I certainly haven't removed off the table that there wasn't direct nefarious activity, because I still think that even if you remove Ayub Kasim and Lucy and Brad and the Tom situation and all this out of the equation, realistically, if Jay walked away from that property, none of them can realistically know that Jay Slater didn't bump into somebody else or get in an altercation away from there and someone didn't do something to him. It's very much the same as the Nicola Bully situation. People can have thoughts and feelings over it, but how did Nicola Bully end up in the water? Did Nicola Bully fall of her own volition, or did someone put her in the water? And that's no different in the Jay Slater case. And for anybody saying that Jay Slater walked himself off that ravine, in reality, nobody knows. And in reality and fact, not even law enforcement were 100% sure. Even in the reports in Spain, they said it was most likely. Most likely leaves room for interpretation. And that interpretation means that, yes, we believe that it's more than likely he walked himself off of this ravine. He got himself into trouble, into bother, and he walked himself off. But there's a chance that it wasn't that way. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.